What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another War Within video. Hope you're all doing very well. Before I jump into the video, we got the tier 2 set, the like reworked set from the 30th anniversary event for Monk, and it is really cool. If you haven't picked up one of those yet, I think the Monk one is probably the best one, or one of the best ones. There might be like 2 or 3 that are the best. Monk is certainly one of them, so definitely go pick those up with the anniversary event. You can also share your currency, which I didn't realize, to your bronze celebration tokens. I just sent all of my tokens over to another tune, and then I was able to, or I gave them all to the Monk, and then I was able to buy this set. So just so you know, let's jump into the video. We're going to talk about us double fist weaving a +12. Now, I'm going to show you some footage of us in the build up to the +12, and we'll just dive right in. The build basically looks like this. I'm not sure if I had Peer into Peace, actually. I probably didn't. I think I had this. It doesn't really matter. The core of the build is having Rushing Wind Kick plus Jade Empowerment, and then we have Jade Bond. So you have a longer Chi-Ji that you're cooling down with your Gusts of Mist. You have Rushing Wind Kick, which does 3 times the amount of damage that Rising Sun Kick does, almost 3 times exactly. So it does an enormous amount of damage, but you're dropping the big Ancient Teachings healing, okay? The 160%. You're going from 160% of the damage that you're dealing down to 30%. The baseline effect for Ancient Teachings is 30%. So that's what you're trading. You're trading a lot of melee damage healing for a ton of damage, just straight up damage with Rushing Wind Kick. And you're gonna have to come up with the healing somewhere else. So we come up with it through our long Chi-Ji and our Crackling Jade Lightning windows. And then there's 2 of us doing this, and therefore it ends up being pretty good, actually. And I'm going to show you all the footage right now. So this is the very end of a Necrotic Wake +11. So we tested double fist weaving in like 10s and 11s just to see if it could actually work. And the main conclusion that I would draw from these dungeons is that if you look at the overall stats, which is the 3rd box in the details here, our overall damage is actually the highest. We're actually tied with the Warrior for the overall damage. 774k plus 768k is 1.53 million damage per second over the course of the entire dungeon. So we're almost tied with the Warrior. We're just behind the Warrior. So the other interesting thing about this is that on certain dungeons, it adds an additional benefit. Like on this fight, we have double dispel for that mechanic. So that mechanic basically doesn't exist. The dispel mechanic basically doesn't exist on this fight because we can so easily get rid of it. Double revival and double dispel. Now, I'm not positing that this is something that you can do seriously in like much higher keys. We'll get to that in a minute. This is really just for fun. We wanted to try it on stream. A couple of guys in Discord were mentioning it. Wax was one of them, and it's just awesome to try this out and to see like how far we could push it. You know, we were just doing it for fun, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, this is the Necrotic Wake 11. We get to the end of it. You can see we have 4 minutes left. We do have 14 deaths because people were just making some silly mistakes. So I actually think that you can do this much cleaner if we didn't have the deaths. Now, all of the deaths were to like one-shots, like people getting hit by Chopper Red Hook, you know, the first boss fight, people just getting meleeed by him because they were too close to him, or other types of one-shots that exist in the dungeon. So any like actual moments of required healing are completely covered by us every single time. There's really no issue with regular healing that goes out. You can see damage going out right now. But the one-shots are the things that you do have to still look out for, and is something that killed a couple of people. So it's still like mechanics still have to be respected, but you know, you're just doing a lot of extra damage here. Even on this boss fight, you can see we're doing about 1 million damage per second together. And the way that I would always want to calculate this is like, is this worth taking over a regular DPS? And the question is, or the answer is probably not in a real key, but there are some advantages. Like you're really, really safe, right? All your healing makes it really, really safe. And then if you can pump out enough damage at the same time, then it becomes an interesting sort of discussion there, right? So there's the end of the first dungeon. We did 1.45 million damage overall. You can see if you add up 738, 727, that's about 1.45 million damage overall. And our healing was about it's about 1 million healing overall between the two of us. So that's that first dungeon. And then I switched into spinning crane kick for a Grim Batol, and I do a whole bunch of extra damage. So I was doing the crackling jade lightning. We were both doing crackling jade lightning on that first dungeon. Then we do a +10 Grim Batol. We basically have no curse dispels in here, by the way. We do end up timing this dungeon as well. I'm trying out the spinning crane kick variant instead, where you have a chance to proc Dance of Chi-Ji, which gives you your spinning crane kick. It does a lot of extra damage, and it does a lot of healing all on its own, as long as you're near your Feline Stomp. And on this big pull right here, this is a pretty dangerous pull. It just does a lot of damage. Watch all the procs that we get. When there, it lit up right there. So whenever my spinning crane kick lights up, you're going to see me start. There's one, and then it's going to light up again in a second here. We end up getting, like, I think 5 procs. Here's the second one. I kick Mass Tremor. And every time I spin, my damage, I'm doing 1.22 million damage per second right now, and we're healing. There's the third Dance of Chi-Ji proc right there. And I get a Chi Burst. There's a fourth Dance of Chi-Ji proc on my spinning crane kick, so I'm going to do it again. Right here, there's my fourth spin. Mass Tremor, and then we get another proc here at the end. It's just incredible. Oh, there's another proc, 5th proc right there. So my damage ends up being 1.23 million damage per second and 600k HPS. So what Wax and I did on this key is we kind of swapped, where I was indexing, I think, a little bit more into damage, and he was indexing more into healing. We kind of we were kind of spreading it out there a little bit and focusing our efforts on different objectives. Let's go to the final boss here. So here is the final boss area. This is, of course, Iridex. We have 4 minutes and 40 seconds left to do this boss fight. Again, this is a +10, so it's got Tyrannical and Fortified. It's got both of those. Our overall numbers right now, you can see I'm doing about 666k damage per second, and Wax has done 458k. So again, I'm higher on the damage. He's higher. He's going to be higher on the healing, because we're kind of splitting the difference there. And we'll get to the end of this fight, and I'll show you the overall numbers. Basically, my spinning crane kick thing worked really, really well whenever the ads were up. His crackling jade lightning thing also worked really, really well whenever the ads were up. But the main benefit you're getting here is extra healing coverage all the time, which is kind of an interesting thought. There's the damage and healing. So the healing overall, Wax beat me here. He did 657k. I only did 550k. So he was, again, higher on healing. I was higher on damage by about 200k. So that was kind of the split that we did there, trying out different builds, and he was going for a more defensive one. And then we go back and do it in a Dawnbreaker +11. We'll go to 321 here. This is some early, this is like early boss damage. So this time around, Wax went really heavy on damage, and I ditched Rushing Wind Kick altogether and instead went for Jade Fire Teachings to get a lot of extra healing with my damage that I'm doing. Okay, so we completely kind of flipped, right? I was doing damage, he was doing healing. Now we've really flipped. He's really indexed into doing damage, and you can see on this boss fight, he's 200k DPS ahead of me, and over the course of the dungeon, he ends up being quite a ways ahead of me, especially on AoE packs. So we'll get to that here. So here we go. There's another AoE pack that we're doing. You can see Wax's damage just starts going boom right out of the gates. I'm doing a little bit more healing than him, and I think I will end up doing just more healing in general. But his damage just goes boom. He's going to start climbing towards 1 million damage per second here, I think, on this pack. But it's an interesting idea, interesting experiment, and I loved trying it with these guys just to see kind of how it worked out. There, he's up to 1 million. I'm only at 725k, so you can see the difference in our builds right there. Because he's got that Rushing Wind Kick, it does so much more damage. So again, that's that. We're gonna go near the end of this. 340, 45. This is our ending stats here. So we did time the key. Let me just make sure I show that. Yeah, there we go. We have 6 minutes left on the last boss fight, by the way. We had 6 minutes left on the final boss. We had 9 deaths. So our damage is good enough that, like, we were able to push through the content. Even having 9 deaths, we had 6 minutes left. So that's pretty incredible. So there we go. That's the kill. We fly up here. The overall numbers, I did 700k HPS. He only did 479k. But he did 729k DPS. I only did 483. So we're literally inverted, right? I did, you know, healing. He did the healing down here. And then this was my damage. This was his damage up here. So totally inverted our stats. Very, very, very cool. Altogether, we still did about 1.2 million damage per second. So very, very good, I would say, between the two healers. Now, we decided to get a little crazy and try this on a plus 12. I think we plus one to that Dawnbreaker, and we're like, you know what? Let's try this in a plus 12 miss just to see if it could actually work. I don't know if this you got to put this kind of proof of concept to the test, to the ultimate test. Can it work? Like, I got double bolted there. And I'll give you the TLDR on the dungeon. Basically, this dungeon, I think, actually is doable with double Fistweaver. We ended up having too many deaths, too many silly deaths to like one-shots and other mechanics by the end of it. We didn't really play perfectly. I think if you played really cleanly, you could actually do a plus 12 miss. Maybe not some of the other dungeons, like not a plus 12 Grim Batol, that kind of thing, but you could definitely do a plus 12 miss with this setup. Now, I went back to the rushing wind kick setup. I dropped the Jadefire teaching. So again, we're relying more on getting healing from our Thunder Focus teas, from our Chi-Ji windows, from revivals, from our crackling Jade Lightnings, that kind of thing. We're not getting a lot of healing from ancient teaching. So that's okay. It's just the way it goes. But our damage is really high. Once again, you can see both of us are sustaining almost 1 million damage per second on this pack, and we're healing everybody. So I just want to say at the outset of this dungeon, we do not time this dungeon, but I think it is timeable if you played really cleanly, much better than we ended up doing here. There was a lot of things we're missing. We didn't have a true bloodlust. We didn't have a good way to CC these mobs, so we end up having to pull this pack, which gets kind of annoying. That probably slowed us down, to be honest, because this pack is just very, very slow. Berno gets one tap there, I think, by Spirit Bolts. I think he gets Spirit Bolted twice here, which is just unfortunate. There's a Spirit Bolt there, and then I'm not sure why he dies here. He's got the essence on him plus a Spirit Bolt, I guess. Oh, and he's standing in the black stuff. So there was just some unfortunate deaths. I'm not trying to center out Berno. There were other deaths later on in the key that were unfortunate, but the damage and the healing is actually quite strong. On the boss fight, the first boss fight was pretty interesting. This boss fight, for example, took us like 5 minutes, just over 5 minutes to do, which was really too bad. That was that's really unfortunate. Yeah, but we do end up absolutely destroying him in the double damage phase, which is really nice. I think I had a 7 mil. I had a rushing wind kick crit for 7 million in here, and the average rushing wind kick is hitting for like, there it is right there, 7.5 mil rushing wind kick. That was pretty cool. So, and you can see the damage is not bad, right? 900k, 800k from us. That adds up to a lot of extra damage. But the boss fight did linger on for just way too long, in my opinion. We do eventually get him down, but it took over 5 minutes to do so. So that's just unfortunate there. Yeah, throughout the key, we just ended up having some unfortunate kind of one-shots. You can see the death toll on the right side. We have 5 deaths now. If I go a little bit further, we still only have 5. Then we go a little bit further. We've got 7 deaths now towards Mistcallers. So if we had cleaned up some of those plays, and if we were playing really on top of the ball, I think there's a chance we could have actually timed this. Now, again, we had a Fox death there. Everybody just died to a Fox. That's really unfortunate. That's like a full wipe. That was probably the entire key, actually, right there. I'm not sure. I don't think we would have timed it anyway, but the Fox death was really massive. Yeah, that was a really big problem there. 12 deaths right there. Like before that moment, right, we had 7 deaths with 10.5 minutes. So maybe it's kind of doable, probably not. You need more like 13, 14 minutes, maybe 15 in order to get to the end of the key. So yeah, some struggles there for sure on Mistcaller. And then into the final section here, you can see we still have those 12 deaths with 1.5 minutes left. We're not going to be able to make it, but I'm very proud of what we did here. And I do think that it's like conceptually, you could actually make this work. It's just, you'd have to play incredibly clean. And We just didn't, and that's okay. 15 deaths by the end there. So you might be like, well, Zuko, you have 2 healers. Why are there 15 deaths? I get it, but a lot of them are just to like one-shots, double spirit bolts, people standing in stuff they shouldn't be standing in, miss collar one-shots with the balls. Like, it's stuff that's preventable if you're just playing kind of a lot better. There's the overall stats there, though. We did 1.5 million damage per second, which was actually the highest in the key if you put our things together, right? And then our healing was about 1.6 million HPS. So it actually kind of works. Is it viable in the higher keys and the plus 12s? Not really. If you really think about it, it's not really viable, I wouldn't say, but it's fun. It was really fun to try and experiment with and to see kind of where we could go with it. And it really showed to me that Master of Harmony is a super strong tree. I mean, just for doing that extra damage, it is a super strong tree. And then the new talents, either Jade Empowerment or Dance of Chi-Ji, are both really strong, and Rushing Wind Kick just hits like an absolute freight train. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. It was really fun experimenting with this. I'm going to keep doing fun things with Mistweaver. If you want to see more of this content, let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to watch it on the stream, we're streaming at twitch.tv/ZukoVibes. Come check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Love you all. I will see you in the next one.